He's going to shoot if I move. That shows you his human reaction time is there. And now, because I trapped the hammer and the cylinder, there's no way for it to fire. What I did was I added pressure here to the back of the hammer, pushing it in. If it was already cocked, my hand will go here, which blocks the hammer, and grab the cylinder at the same time. From here, you redirect the barrel back towards the aggressor, and this gives you the ability to use the weapon or to secure the weapon and take them to custody or move away from them and get to safety. This is something you'll be deciding. Now, the reason this works is this. The human reaction time. The brain sees me move, and then he wants to fire. So when he sees me move, he's going to fire. And the reason why that does not happen when you are going to get to the weapon and make it not fire is because by the time the brain sees it, it's too late. And that's because you are trapping the hammer and the cylinder and then redirecting the barrel. That's how you increase your survivability in a situation where someone has a gun to your chest. And the reason why someone does that is because when someone is going to abduct you, when they're going to assault you in a very serious way, when they're going to rob you, they can't do it from over here or back away from you because they have to have contact with you so you don't run away. They also have to contact with you so you don't grab a weapon. If they stand here and you have a weapon on you, you're going to be able to pull the weapon out and then defend yourself. And by the time let's say I was the criminal and I had my weapon at this person and I'm telling them to give me money or, give me their car keys, whatever this is, if he decided to grab a gun, by the time I saw the gun, it would be too late. At the very fastest I could do is I could shoot him as he shoots me. And that's because human reaction time is 2,000 of a second to respond to the stimulus, which is my gun here. Now, when I see him not comply, let's say he's going to punch me or he's going to pull out a gun, by the time I see that and I go to pull the trigger, he's actually going to make contact with me. So if he went to punch me really fast, I would actually be punched and I could shoot the gun, possibly strike him, but he would have got the punch in right before I would have actually shot. The only way that wouldn't happen is if I was sitting here concentrating just on shooting, not on actually robbing him or abusing him. If I'm focused on anything else other than just shooting, there's no way my human reaction time is going to be fast enough to adapt to his movement. So by the time I can see the movement, it's going to be too late. He punches, I would be hit, and then I would have to pull the trigger if I could. And that's how people are getting disarmed. This happens to police officers and civilians. The police officer or civilian is telling them you're under arrest or get out of my store, out of my house, and the aggressor, the assailant, attacks first. And by the time you perceive that, whether you're a police officer or a regular person, it's going to be too late because you're concentrating on doing something other than shooting the person. You're concentrating on not shooting them unless they do something that you don't want them to do. By the time your brain processes that, it's going to be too late. 2,000 of a second versus 1,000 of a second to initiate action. So action is always faster than a reaction. That's in all situations. So by the time I see his fist coming towards me and I'm giving him directions, I'm telling him turn around or empty his pockets or whatever I'm doing, by the time I perceive that he's actually not complying, it's going to be too late. And that's why it's imperative to understand human reaction time and how to take a weapon from someone, in this case a revolver, and when the criminal has the revolver, this is what creates the conditions for you to survive, is how his brain is going to respond to your actions. By the time he sees your lack of compliance, it will be too late. And what I did was moved out of the line of sight, which is what you always want to do whenever possible. And by moving out of the line of sight, I've increased my likelihood of being able to stop this gun from firing or shooting me. Let's say it did fire. If it had fired as I reached, and let's say I was too slow or missed it, by the time I got my hand up here, it would shoot and I'd still not be in front of the gun. So whenever possible, you always want to move what's in front of the gun if you can. Often you won't be able to because you're either sitting in a chair, you're in a vehicle, you're in bed, you're pinned against a wall. So that would not be something you could do. And in the case of a revolver, you never want to just grab the cylinder because if it's cocked and I only grab the cylinder, when he fires, the gases from the sides of the cylinder would actually hurt my hand very seriously, especially if it's a larger caliber. It can severely injure my hand. So you never want to do that. You want to grab both the hammer and the cylinder at the same time, blocking them, trapping them. And again, in this case, it's trapped because it's forward. But if it was cocked, when I go like this, when he pulls the trigger, which he just did, it's actually blocked by my pinky here. And if it was on the other side, or if I grab it this way, the same thing would happen. So you always want to reach back there. And if there's no hammer here, that means that the hammer is inside. It's called hammerless. That means inside a piece of metal here. And what that means is that when he pulls the trigger, it's still going to fire the weapon, but it has to rotate for that to happen, which means that if you grab the cylinder and you go here and there's nothing back here, it's just a piece of metal, when you go like this, it's still going to block it. It's still going to stop it from firing because it stopped the cylinder from rotating. That's if it's hammerless. And if it's not hammerless, then there's hammer. Remember, you're blocking or trapping it, and that stops it from firing. So in the event that you are here, to increase your survivability, you reach in, you grab in, push in on the hammer and the cylinder at the same time. I'm pinning both in this case. And then, of course, if you could, you'd be off the line of sight by stepping off the side. Redirecting the barrel up towards the aggressor gives you control of the weapon. These are intelligent options that increase your survivability.